Thank you. Mr. Lenny, we're going to go start a second round. I know the ranking member has got other questions. I've got a few here. I'd like to change directions and talk about the IT point that you brought up in your testimony this morning. You mentioned that there have been attacks on the State Department's network and that compromises the IG's work relative to being on the same network. Can you talk about that in a little more detail and talk about what you're doing to protect your independence and whether you need to be totally independent on a separate network? I mean, what is your recommendation or what are you doing to protect IG's independence?
I think that your point is well taken. To the extent that the department suffers from attacks, we suffer from attacks because we're on the same network. We've taken a number of steps since I've been in office. First of all, we've asked the department to agree not to come onto our system without asking permission. And we've gotten that agreement from the department. But we need more than that, because right now we're sort of in a gated community, if you will, where we rent our IT system, and the IT folks at the department have the keys to our IT system. So they really have access, unfettered access to the system if they wanted to. They could read, modify, delete any of our work. We have sensitive grand jury materials. We have
I'm sorry to interrupt. How far down in State Department organization is that access provided? Is that throughout the organization? Or
well, it's State Department administrators have access to our system, and as well as any other system.
So during an investigation, your files are open to the hierarchy of the State Department?
Well, they're not open, but if an administrator wanted to, and again, we don't have evidence of this, if an administrator wanted to, he or she could come onto our system with their access. That's the problem. I mean, they come onto our system as it is with security patching and all for legitimate reasons.
So how is that done in other departments?
Well, at the very basic level, some departments differ in the way they handle it. Generally, you know, there's a firewall or some sort of form of protection against that type of intrusion, because an IG just can't protect confidentiality of witnesses and information if there is a possibility. Now, the other way some IGs do it, and this is the way I did it when I was the Inspector General at the Federal Housing Finance Agency. I had a completely separate system and network with my own email address. I was completely off the department's grid.
What keeps you from doing that here?
Well, I need money and I need the department's cooperation. I would like to be completely separate from the department to ensure the integrity of our system, but I also need the department to give us access to the same systems that we have now. And I've actually broached this topic with the Secretary last Friday and Deputy Secretary Higginbottom.
Do you have evidence that the State Department's network has been attacked, and does that affect you guys?
There's evidence that has been attacked, and it has affected us. I can't really go into details because of the nature of the information.
I understand that completely. So what are you doing to protect the independence, and how can you, short of separating yourself on a separate network, which takes money, as you say, to protect the independence of your investigations?
Well, we've taken the first step in getting the department to agree not to come onto our system. But the next step is developing a firewall around our network. Again, this really depends on the department's willingness to do this quickly with us. The other thing we're trying to do, we have published 4 what's called FISMA reports over the last 4 years, where we've found recurring weaknesses in the department system. And that's given us a lot of pause, because I'm not so sure if we have problems in the department system, that obviously leads to vulnerabilities in our own system.
So let me just be clear that don't let me put words in your mouth, but are you getting cooperation from the organization, the State Department organization, with regard to this particular IT issue relative to independence? I think independence is critical if you're going to be objective in your evaluations. You've got to have access, but you also have to be protected in terms of the information confidentiality, as you just said. Is it a cooperative attitude that you're seeing? I mean, is this something that's moving forward? Can we bank on the fact that this is going to get taken care of, or do we need to talk to the other members of leadership in State Department?
Well, I know that Deputy Secretary Higginbottom is looking into this issue, and she's been very receptive and helpful to us in general. I will say the process has been very slow. It took us months just to get the Bureau of Diplomatic Security to sign an agreement not to come onto our system without approvals, and that's only in limited circumstances. So it's a slow process. It's a big bureaucracy, so I'm cautiously optimistic.
Well, good. I'm going to yield the rest of my time and I ask Senator Murphy to have access to his questions now at this point. Thank you.